Leona twirled around, singing at the top of her lungs, la me, la.
Me.
Scarlet was setting up her drums for rehearsal. How about we start with the melody first this time, Leona? She smirked. Leona scrunched up her nose and waved impishly at Scarlet. Just testing out my vocal range, Scar. Sage had called a last-minute evening practice session at the Lightning Lounge. She was determined to find inspiration for the song the Darlings band had signed up to perform for Light Giving Day. They still needed to write a song for the celebration, and Sage was feeling the time pressure. She ran through a series of chords on her guitar while the others prepped their instruments, hoping the band could come together to create just the right song. Leona continued her vocal warm-ups, creating even stranger sounds this time around. Scarlet shook her head, then put on her headphones to block out the noise. Suddenly, the light in the sky flickered out long enough to distract Sage from her chord progressions. Leona stopped warming up. Anyone just see that? She asked nervously. Must be the atmospheric changes that occur this time of year, Vega stated matter-of-factly. It's very rare, along the lines of the total eclipse of a purple moon. Statistically, this sort of celestial event can happen just before the time of new beginnings. Through the window, the Darlings saw the light in the sky flicker out again. This time the blackness lasted longer. Vega blinked a few times, then looked up at the sky, searching for another logical explanation for what was happening. Before any of the other Darlings could offer their thoughts on the mysterious flickering light, their star zaps flashed with matching messages that read, "Urgent. Please come to my office at once." Lady Stella had called an emergency meeting of the Darlings. It was most unusual for that time of night. Scarlet saw the message from Lady Stella on her star zap. She turned down the music she was listening to and took out her earbuds. Leona dramatically covered her mouth with her hands and gasped in her typical theatrical fashion. What could this possibly mean? Any starling knows that there's something out of tune when the Starland skylight flickers, Scarlet said, breaking down her drum set. Sage wondered if positive wish energy could be draining, since flickering lights had been the first sign of negatites affecting the balance of energy on Starland. This starlight display is more than just a celestial event. Starland is in trouble, she announced to her bandmates. The Darlings agreed. They hurriedly packed up their instruments and headed straight to Lady Stella's office, without another note played or a single word spoken. At the meeting in her office, Lady Stella paced the sparkling floor with an intensity that alarmed all 12 Darlings. They sat at her round table, waiting to hear what news she would share with them. They knew better than to say anything or even ask questions. The deafening silence in the room made it crystal clear that something of great importance was happening. Lady Stella began to speak with urgency in her voice. My young starlings. Much has transpired on Starland. We have faced many dangers and overcome them all. I have all of you to thank for that. Now we find ourselves facing a new challenge. Does any starling know why we're all here this evening? Sage offered her explanation. Could it have something to do with the light flickering in the sky? Yes, Sage, but there's more. My discovery of the long-forgotten ancient oracle that foretold of 12 starlings who held the secret to saving Starland was just the beginning of the puzzle. Now I believe there is much more to uncover, and I'll need your help. What's happened this time, Lady Stella? Leona asked nervously. What can we do?
Shh.
Should we be concerned? Libby stuttered. I don't understand. Lady Stella took a long deliberate sip from her oversized mug of warm zing. Our last encounter with Rancora was a test for us all. And we succeeded. However, there were mistakes made. Mistakes that have led to this moment. She took another sip of zing and announced, Starland is once again in danger. The Darlings froze in their seats. Sage closed her eyes, bracing for the worst. I've learned that Rancora has intercepted a bad wish orb, Lady Stella continued. I can't hear this. Leona leaped out of her seat. Scarlet leaned over to calm her down. Sit down, Leona. Now is not the time to lose it. Leona's excitable nature didn't serve any star darling at that moment. The best thing the star darlings could do was remain calm and listen to what Lady Stella had to say. Sage reassured Leona and the others. We're going to deal with whatever comes our way. We're star darlings. Clover added. Lady Stella resumed pacing around her office. Now, where was I? Yes. It's not clear how much negative energy Rancora has left, now that I've drained the reserve she was storing on the Isle of Misera. But I know it isn't very much. However, I believe it was enough to have affected a student here at Starling Academy. Somehow, this particular student's memory did not get erased after we defeated Rancora. She knows everything about the Star Darlings and about our wish missions to Wishworld. I believe this Starling is now under Rancora's control. Lady Stella found it difficult to hide her concern and frustration about the difficult situation. She turned away from the Star Darlings to compose herself. When she turned back, she spoke. Just moments ago, I saw an unusual colored streak of light shoot through the sky. I am convinced it was Vivica, heading to Wishworld to grant a bad wish for a wisher. Vivica? Sage blurted out. Of course, it's Vivica. Piper exclaimed. Who else would it be? Scarlet added. She shook her head in disappointment. Lady Stella continued. First, Professor Eugenia Bright reported Vivica absent this morning from wish fulfillment class, and when I checked my messages, I saw that Vivica had not attended Professor Margaret Dumar's Wishling Ways class either. When I tried to contact her, she didn't answer. Several bots searched everywhere for her, but she couldn't be found. That's when all the crystals fell into place. Rancora must have found a vulnerable starling in Vivica, who for one reason or another was more susceptible to negative influences than the rest of you, and exposed her to negative energy. The Star Darlings looked at one another knowingly. Yep, that sounds like Vivica, Scarlet sighed. She is negative, but would she really go that far? Adora wondered. Lady Stella continued. The level of exposure Vivica had is still unknown. But the negative energy will enhance Vivica's worst instincts. Her better self has been overpowered by Rancora's dark forces. As we sit here on Starland, Vivica is on her way to Wishworld to grant a wisher a bad wish. If granted, this bad wish will most likely produce enough negative wish energy to restore Rancora's negative power. Since Vivica is a young wish granter, and the wisher is young, too, the power will be that much greater, as you know. Lady Stella took a deep breath and another long sip from her cup of zing in an attempt to calm herself. For this journey, a wish orb will not simply choose a star darling to go to Wishworld. It is more complex than that this time. This is a dire situation, not only because if the bad wish is granted, it will give Rancora the negative energy she needs to gain strength, but it will also have a terrible permanent negative effect on Vivica. The Star Darlings looked anxiously around the room, each wondering who would be chosen to stop the bad wish from being granted by one of their own. Lady Stella cleared her throat. I've managed to learn that the wisher is named Clara and she's a student in a performing arts program at a place called the North Coast Performing Arts Center. I believe Clara's wish is something that will hurt her best friend in some way. I don't know any more beyond that. The Star Darlings listened quietly to Lady Stella's every word. Since the potential threat to Starland's positive energy is so extreme, one Star Darling will not suffice. Nor will two. There must be 3 Star Darlings sent to Wishworld to stop Vivica before she grants Clara's bad wish. Lady Stella paused, and a glowing wish orb appeared. It hovered around the room, first drifting over to Scarlet. It glowed with the rich fuchsia color of Scarlet's Ravenstone power crystal. Scarlet blushed almost the same fuchsia color as it floated in front of her. She stared at the glowing orb and then looked at Lady Stella. "I've got this," Scarlet said. Images of Wishworld flashed before her. She was grateful to have another opportunity to visit Wishworld, even if the journey would test her strength and resilience more than ever. Scarlet knew she was ready. Lady Stella nodded in silence. The floating, glowing orb then made its way to the next star darling who would take the challenging journey to Wishworld. It was Leona. Leona yelped, astonished and flattered that she had been chosen. "Lady Stella, I'm honored beyond words." She bowed her head to Lady Stella. Lady Stella bowed back to her. As for the third star darling who would take the journey, the glowing orb finally landed in front of Sage. She froze in her seat. It was what she had been wishing for, and now there it was. "Thank you for the honor, Lady Stella. I won't let you down," Sage promised. "I have great faith in you, Sage." Sage was thrilled, maybe even more than the others, to be taking such an important journey, because each successful mission brought her closer to her goal. The other star darlings gathered around Sage, Leona, and Scarlet. They congratulated the chosen starlings, offering their help in any way they could provide it. "We must hurry now." "Time to prepare," Lady Stella said, dismissing the star darlings. Sage was the last of the girls to leave. Lady Stella stopped her at the door and motioned for her to return to the office. "Sage, I'd like to talk with you. Please come in and sit down." Sage wondered why she had been singled out. Had she said something to upset Lady Stella? She found a seat at the round table. Lady Stella joined her. "Sage," she said with great seriousness and sincerity, "I know that I've given you a challenge beyond what I could have ever imagined taking on when I was a student at the Academy." "Thank you, Lady Stella. I'll do my best to stop the bad wish from being granted. Your mother has an extraordinary legacy. She continues to make great advances in wish science for Starland. However, in you, my young starling, there are untapped gifts that are yours alone, gifts that even you are not wholly aware of yet. You have the power to be a great leader, and I am counting on you to bring that to this journey. Remember that while you are on Wishworld. Now off you go. There's very little time to prepare, so hurry, my dear, hurry."